And also triathlon training is like the nice where instead of it being like running all the time or weightlifting all the time and needing to come up with all the little variations, it's just like swim, bike, or run. And it's just like very simple, and it rotates enough that it's like it gives me variety, but then also within the actual swimming, biking, or running, I don't have to think too much. It's just like, oh, do I want to, how's the weather? Should I bike or should I swim? And like, that's it.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tyburczy.
What's up, everybody? I'm sorry this episode's coming at you a little late. My internet's been down until today, and I worked today as well, so I didn't get as much time to work on the episode as I typically do, but it's all good because, have no fear, Gwen Gray is here. She's hilarious, and we have a great conversation. She's a great comic here in Eugene, and she's got a lot of things on her plate. And as I was editing this episode, I realized that the day that we're releasing this is the day after she starts her summer internship, which is on a film, which sounds very exciting, and we get into those details as we get into the episode. So thanks for joining us, and I'm not gonna spend too much more time leading up to it because it's a great conversation and I'm a little tired, and so it's time to move on. And so thanks for listening to this episode because I had a great time listening to it myself. So hear a little bit more about our conversation, what we chatted about. We chat about everything from filmmaking to triathlons to comedy and so much more. So hope you enjoy it. Thanks for stopping by. Jokes in the Gym with Rudy Tyburczy. And now you get to enjoy a conversation between myself and Gwen Gray.
What is up? Hi, everybody. Hi, several people. Hi, friend Gwen. Hey,
Hello.
What is up? Hi. Thanks for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here. This is Jokes and the Gym. I'm your host, Rudy Tyburczy. I'm stoked to have my friend, my guest, fellow Eugene comedian here. Can we say Eugene comedian? You live here most of the year.
Yeah.
When people ask you where you're from, do you say I'm from Eugene, or do you say you're from your hometown or somewhere else?
I say Eugene by this point. It like very recently shifted to that.
Nice. You're one of us now. You're smellier. You've got more hair. You've got crunchiness in your blood. I love to hear it. You're hilarious. You're a great comic. Loved seeing you come up recently here in Eugene. You've got a monthly show at Max's, but twice monthly. That'll be starting back up in the fall after the summer because you're finishing some things up right now. And you can find her online at Gwen_Gray_ on the socials. Give it up for Gwen Gray. I'm fine with maracas. Do you play any music? Are you a musician, Gwen?
Oh God, I wish I could. Back in the day, I did my fair share of trying to write funny raps when I was in middle school. Yeah.
Nice.
Very embarrassing.
I did it when I was an adult, so I think you chose the right time. I did a bunch of silly raps when I lived in Asia. So basically middle school, the middle school of my adult life.
Yeah. I think it's fair to have a rap relapse every once in a while.
Yeah, re-raps.
Rap laps.
I have a couple rap songs that I'll bust out once in a while in the act. I don't hate it. I think it's kind of fun.
In the act? Oh,
yeah, I'll put it on stage.
Your act.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like in the act, like between a man and a woman.
Oh.
I'm like, that would be a crazy mid-seduction moment right there. You start rhyming about political issues, and you're just like, yeah.
I'm doing my rap is literally about my dick not working very well.
Okay.
So it would be a perfect time for it. I think
it would work perfectly.
In the act. I love how you thought about in the that's like, oh yes, I was caught in the act of Congress.
Yeah. Oh, it's very like, I don't know why I took it so like Southern conservative Christian, like, oh, the act. Like, we can't talk about it because then we gotta allude to it.
Well, your use of it is probably better than my self-aggrandizing way to say when I tell jokes into a
Mm-hmm.
microphone. The act. What am I talking about?
It
The
was like
act,
yeah, you
boo.
kind of did like third person, not like my act. You weren't taking any ownership. You're just like, oh, it's the act. It's my
Yeah, you
gift
put
to
it.
the world.
It's in there. Yeah, it's out
Yeah.
there. Well, you say it's my gift to the world, and as lame as that sounds, it's like that's part of how I look at comedy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'm putting it out there. I'm giving you an opportunity to join me on my laughter journey. It may not resonate entirely with you, but here's a chance. Let's see if we connect. And sometimes it
Mhm.
works, and oh boy, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Nothing worse than that when there's silence during the act.
Oh
It's
yeah, it
tough.
happens a
When it's
lot.
one-sided, you know.
Oh my gosh. I feel like when it's in one of these scenes like we have where we produce a bunch of shows, comedians produce a bunch of shows and you almost can't just do comedy. It feels like sometimes. But I'm not sure. You're newer to comedy than I am. Do you get that impression like as a younger comedian that like you have to produce shows, or do you feel like some pressure to keep up with the Joneses in some way or another?
Well, I feel like it's almost just trying to have enough happening to keep it interesting. Because, like,
Hmm.
if we're all doing the same open mics every week, and then I feel this weird thing of like, oh, this is a very similar audience, like, then it's like, want to keep them happy with new stuff. But then as soon as you're producing shows, it's like you're just creating new jobs and new
Mm-hmm.
audiences. And that's just like nice. That's very refreshing. So I think it's
Hmm.
more of just to like, ward off I was about to sound like an ass, but ward off monotony. But
You can sound like an ass. That's
yeah.
fine. No, I don't mind.
But yeah, I feel like it's like it keeps things interesting to like produce shows. Not that it's not
Ye-
interesting with that, but it just keeps like keeps you able to focus on other aspects as opposed to just like only overthinking your act.
Mhm. I think another thing that producing shows is really good for is just to help you see everything that goes into a show. You get to
Hmm.
know all the roles, you get to know all the jobs, and it's like when you're producing, you're hiring people for a half a dozen different jobs at least, you're
Hmm.
hiring the people at the bar and the other comedians, and it's like I think that just kind of informs for me. I've done every job from, putting out chairs to sweeping to opening to headlining. And I think
Hmm.
just having that experience putting stuff together really like informs your performances and helps you like focus on the task at hand, whatever it might be.
Hmm. Especially like I definitely started showing up to other gigs earlier and things like that once I know how it feels to be the host and be like, where are they? And so I
Uh-huh.
think it just helps, yeah, give that understanding to all the roles and give that kind of empathy to all the roles and makes you better at contributing to
Totally.
the whole little ecosystem of a show.
Yeah, that's been some advice that I've gotten from other comics is like whatever your job is on a show, just do the hell out of that job.
Mm-hmm.
Do that the best you can to make the show better. What can you do in your role to make the show better? Because it's not about making you look the best possible at all times, but I don't know, sometimes it is. and
Yeah.
i and I think when you're getting paid, then your responsibility is a bit more to the audience and the producer to like keep that show good, as opposed to an open mic where it's fine to fuck around a little bit more. It's
Yeah.
fine to not have everything as tight and crisp. That's what an open mic is. We're
Mm-hmm.
just working on shit. What's your favorite role you've experienced so far in like when you produce a Max's show? What's your favorite aspect of producing shows at Max's?
I love like putting different people together on a show, trying to balance personalities and acts. Like that's my favorite part is kind of putting the puzzle together of like, ooh, what would make a good flow? Like knowing people's personalities and stuff. That's my favorite part is like kind of puzzling together the
Mm,
lineups
mm-hmm. Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
that is super fun, and it kind of
I got a
makes
little bit of
sense. You got some what?
Oh, you were just freezing for a second, but
well,
we're back now.
I'll be freezing. That's sorry. That's just how boring I am. The Riverside is like, no, sorry, bud, we're not going there.
I just thought you were being a really intentful listener, just like.
I love when someone gets stuck and I'm just looking at their face like in the
Yeah.
middle of a really weird visual. So yeah. But I mean, that makes sense to me. Like, you like seeing how people go together because you're into film. You're taking classes. You make short films that you've directed several pieces. Is this correct?
This is correct. I haven't really like posted anything I've made at school because as soon as it's not trying to be funny, I get way more like vulnerable about it. I'm like, oh, how will this psychological feminist drama, like, what will that add to people's life if I didn't do it well, you know? As opposed to, like, comedy, I have a much better barometer for. But I've been trying to push myself with, like, the types of films I make, for sure.
How so? Like, how are you trying to grow in that respect?
So I used to always want to do comedy film, like since middle school, that was my career goal, was to write comedy films and TV and stuff. But ever since I've like done my own kind of goofy videos and skits through like high school.
I've been there, sister. Yeah. I get it. Hell yeah, I love it.
But then now that I'm like having a more like academic film production course while I'm doing so much stand-up. At this point, stand-up is my comedy outlet, and now that I'm in school making films, I haven't had a single urge to make a funny film. Like, it's all getting outletted through stand-up, and so I've like never in my life have I wanted to make like a drama until this last winter when I was doing so much comedy stand-up that I'm like, I don't want to try to write something funny. I'm just going to try to delve into something new. And so I've been like trying different genres and stuff, which is cool.
I love that. That's such a cool idea. And it's such an interesting thought as well. Like, that you can kind of compartmentalize like comedy and drama in that way, or you have very specific outlets for them. Are you interested in acting as well as directing? Is that part of your process, or do you just do like writing, directing, and producing?
I've never thought of myself as an actor until COVID hit and I had to be the actor in my videos, and then I started being the actor in my videos even after you know, COVID wasn't as much of a thing anymore. And so now it's funny because I still like mentally don't think of myself as an actor, but it's like the majority of what I do at this point is performing, like with stand-up, and I do improv at the school. And so it's so funny to me that I still have a disconnect where like I don't feel like I could be an actor even though like so much of what I do is performing. So I think I'm just trying to get really good at writing, directing, and if acting happens to like, if I happen to have opportunities, I'll take them, but I think I still am like too shy to feel like I could really pursue that.
I saw this really interesting Ethan Hawke clip, and I'm not like some Ethan Hawke head, you know, like I don't have Hawke posters over here. I didn't even love the guy for the longest time, but then I really watched the Before movies. I love the Before movies. Oh my gosh, so good.
Never seen them.
Oh my gosh, I recommend them to every 21-year-old I know. They're like banana. It's a trilogy. They take place 9 years apart in real time with the characters essentially. So it's like,
oh, that's cool.
It's so cool. You get to see these two people meet on a train, and then there's 2 more movies, 9 years in between each of them, and so it's very cool. Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy made them together. But I get that's an aside. I recommend them to everybody. If you've ever been in love or thought about being in love, those movies will resonate. At least one of those movies will resonate with you at some point in some way or another. It's friggin' dope.
Sweet.
And Ethan Hawke but I saw just a clip on friggin' Instagram that he was like, most like film schools should teach acting. He's like, I never got why film schools don't teach acting, because as a director, you're dealing with actors. You're dealing with this like messy, grungy, like process that is so emotional and in depth and human, and directors are like coming at it with like, oh my god, are they going to ruin my shot, or they're going to come up with like this idea that they want to do or whatever. And it's like, you have to know how actors function, and to do that, I think a really good way is to be an actor. And
Mhm.
you are getting that right now as a comedian, whether you want to act on film or not, because that's what we do as comedians. We act. We have to act. We don't want to feel the exact emotions we're portraying on stage, right?
Mhm.
That's in this book, Mastering Stand-Up by Stephen Rosenfeld. I'm reading it right now, but he's talking about how you act on stage. You don't want to feel those emotions when you're on stage, because you have to do it over and over.
Mhm.
If it's a joke where you're vulnerable, you don't have to feel that in the joke every time, or otherwise you'll like leave yourself so drained, you know? So
Mhm.
like getting that experience to like show different emotions to people, I think is going to be super valuable for you. And the fact that you know that all these different kind of emotions and personalities come together to create this, gumbo of comedy every time you put a show together at Max's, I think speaks well to like your, your thought process and potential for what you can do in the future.
Totally. Yeah, I love. Oh, and I auditioned and I acted for like half of a play, and I got really
Mm.
sick and had to leave. But like
Uh,
that was really like educational, because I was starting to get to the point where we were gonna do full rehearsals of running through the whole play, like full
mm-hmm.
run throughs, day after day after day, and that was getting to the point where I'm like, I'm losing my mind. This is crazy. Like, how do I just
Mm-hmm.
perform it the same way every time? And so, unfortunately, I got mono, and I had
Boo.
to leave. But
Boo.
I
You
know, so
making out too
college of
much? Was
me.
that it? Yeah.
I guess so. Guilty, take me away. But and so I totally saw like how rigorous even just like acting on stage versus for film, but all of that has helped me, yeah, try to learn how to communicate with actors
Mm-hmm.
in the stuff I've been filming for school. But I'm definitely going to try to. There's a lot of student films being shot, like not even in classes, just kind of in like film clubs, and I'm going to try to next year get as involved as I can. Like I'm going to try to act again, I think, and
Hmm.
give it another stab.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, get out there. Try different stuff. See what happens.
Mhm.
Maybe you love it. Maybe you don't. Who freaking knows? You don't know until you jump in
Exactly.
there, right? Are you working on anything now? Do you have like a script you're excited about, or do you have some? What part of the like creative movie making, filmmaking process are you in, or are you in this regenerative phase? What's the spot for you?
So I took 2 super rigorous film classes back to back in the fall and in the winter. So I've sort of
Mm.
let myself just like veg and recover in the fall or in the
Mm-hmm.
spring, this spring,
Mm-hmm.
and like start working out again, start like just focusing more on comedy, because those were kind of like all consuming, especially the winter. It was like we were shooting 4 short films every
Mm.
weekend in our
Mm.
groups, or like every other
Jeez.
weekend. Yeah, and so like the turnover was crazy, and it's like it'd be like 12-hour filming days back to back. And so I've just sort of been, and I managed to get an internship for this summer, which I'm excited about. So like I've just been letting myself, I like almost haven't been letting myself brainstorm about film stuff, because when I get an idea, I get so excited and hard headed, and I'm gonna do it, even if it's like
Mm.
self sabotaging. And so right now, I'm like, I
Mm.
know I just need to fucking chill and just do
Mm.
well at this internship, and then I'll probably. So like I've been I think stand up has been such a good outlet that I haven't had like a million ideas all at once about like
Mm.
things I want to film, because I used to always have so many ideas and it'd be so hard to like pick one and start and get the resources. So I've been in this nice place where I've been relaxed and being able to help other people on their films
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of be more chill and like try more roles. But I'm sure that like I'm gonna get hit with like an idea or an onslaught of things I want to film, and that'll come into the next fall with them. But right now I'm just regenerating.
Mm. That's good.
Yeah.
That sounds smart, not to like put everything on all the, your foot on the gas on all the cars that you're driving right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard Lars von Trier say something. Do you know Lars von Trier? Are you familiar with him?
Mm-mm.
He's a Danish director. I almost went to Denmark to write my thesis about him. Got to have that mid-podcast chip.
Yeah.
uh,
ASMR.
Oh yeah, baby, crunch, crunch.
Mhm.
And he said making a movie should be like a pebble in your shoe, or he described it like that because it's like
I've
you
definitely heard that before.
you
You
just
can't
have
get
to
rid
get
of
it
it.
out. Yeah, you gotta
Mhm.
try. You gotta do whatever. You can't walk normally until it's out. And I just love that
Mhm.
idea. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like, oh, I am compelled, I am called to share this with the world one way or another. I feel like everybody has at least a couple movies in them. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's a movie or two in your brain that you may or may not know. You might even not be through it, you know, it might be part of your
Mhm.
life. So, and that's part of the fun of comedy is that you just get to like do it now. You write a joke today, you tell it tonight. Like what a
No
gift.
resources are needed. No crew is needed. The
Mm-mm.
infrastructure's there. You just have to show. It's so nice,
Hmm.
and it's I think it's been the best like grounds for me to just kind of like cycle out my ideas and my things. Like at this point,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it used to be all my ideas would form into skit form, and now ever
Mm-hmm.
since I started doing stand up consistently, like everything that happens to me that's funny or interesting just gets turned into stand up. And so I think right now that's my main like form of production, and I'm sure it will start to shift because I haven't had a script idea in a long time, which is
Uh-huh.
crazy
Yeah.
because I've just been putting it all into stand up. But I'm like, it's honestly good because it helps me take pressure off the filmmaking. Because in
Yeah.
high school, it'd be like I'd have these ideas. I'm like, this is a fucking amazing idea. The only thing between me and this idea is like filming it, and I would like rush things. Whereas now that I'm relaxed and I don't have these like crazy intense ideas, I can just actually like be a student and learn and
Mm-hmm.
like not have to be terrific at filming, and I can like actually give myself grace to like learn. And I'm sounding like a Christian mom blogger, but
Dude,
giving myself some grace to like
please
actually
do.
be, especially because it's nice doing like shows and stand up, uh and like that's a way for me to feel like I'm building professionalism in something, which
Mm-hmm.
then that takes pressure off being a student and making films. I'm like letting myself be I'm letting myself not be perfect at them.
I love that. And I was going to ask about balance, but that kind of sums it up for you. It's like
Hmm.
you have a variety of different outlets that you're giving yours. Sound like a mom all you want. Give
I know.
yourself grace. I love that term because it's like one of those things that I wish when I was your age, you're in your 20s, and I wish that when I was in my 20s, I gave myself grace. I wish that in my 20s and my 30s, I was nicer to myself. I wasn't like, this has to be perfect. This has to be done. This has to be blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be any of those things. And just because you fucked something up or you forgot a thing, I forget details all the time and I hate myself
Hmm.
for it to this day. And I hate that I hate myself for it. You know, it's such a
Yeah.
tough balance to find for me. That's my life's constant battle is trying to find
Hmm.
balance between things. So it's always good to hear how other people kind of attempt to find balance in their own
Hmm.
lives.
I totally like it comes down to compartmentalizing.
Hmm.
I don't know how I do it, but it's very much like having comedy at the end of the day means I actually get my school shit done. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like when I'm at comedy, I'm not thinking about anything else. And it's been very nice to be able to just like, but that also comes with like, if I'm scrolling on my phone and in the habit of using my phone all the time, like I can tell my attention and my ability to like actually focus gets shot. But when I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, which that's just like a brain, like attention and focus thing in general. But if I'm like, I find I have to be having a lot of things going on to not fall into just like consuming shit, which then makes the focus get shot, which then makes the attention get shot. So I think part of the ability to compartmentalize is because I like put some restrictions on like media stuff because I know that will just fry my brain and make me
Uh-huh.
useless.
That's so smart. Did your parents, like when you were growing up, have restrictions for you on like content or media or phone usage?
We didn't have cable, on our TV as growing up. So we would only watch movies. And so we never watched TV. We would play outside. And so that was very good. Like that was up until like through elementary school. And then starting in middle school, I was really late to get a phone compared to my peers. But once we had phones and everything, there was like no regulation. They were just kind of like, it was up to us.
Yeah.
And I think I just have an addictive personality, but I would just be a menace. I'd just be like a phone goblin.
Yeah.
Like back in high school, it was like Pinterest. I had to delete Pinterest. I was too addicted to Pinterest.
What were you looking up on Pinterest?
It was just like creative projects I needed to try, which then would make my brain like ADHD go crazy. And then it would be like, ooh, what I want my future life to look like, what I want my future house to look like. And I just got so separated from my actual life. But so I didn't have any regulation for a long time, and I learned that like I had to give it to myself or I would just hate my actual life.
Yeah.
And just want to live in that little cocoon of like TV shows and
totally. It's easy to do.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do. And it's like I get that compulsion to like just be doing one thing all the time or close yourself off from all the other stuff. And so it's nice to know that you need to do that. You know, it's like, okay, I can regulate myself a little bit. And a big part of my regulation for ADHD and depression and undiagnosed whatever for most of my life was working out. And that was one of the first things that we kind of connected on and talked about and like to chat about is health and fitness and that kind of stuff. You're doing a ton of stuff. You're like part of the running club. You're doing what is your like fitness like recently? What has your gym been? What are you doing these days in that arena?
What has my gym been? I trained this spring. I was training for a triathlon, which for me, as someone who like grew up as a runner, training for triathlon feels like a vacation because it's like 2 days out of 3 I don't have to run. Like biking and swimming feels so fun comparatively. Like when I did like endurance training in high school, and it's like every workout is like you're pushing yourself to the max in whatever form it is, whether it's distance or you're doing like intervals, just being able to like get in the pool or like ride a little bike around just felt like so fun. Like I'm like, this just does not feel like work. And so yeah, I hate that I love biking because I used to give road bikers so much shit. I hated them because it was always like runners versus bikers. I gave them so much shit.
Team
but
bike.
Unfortunately, I'm on team bike. But so this spring, I'm very seasonal in how I work out. So this spring, I was just pool, biking, running, and it was like I wouldn't really, for the bulk of that training, I'm not like pushing myself to the max or doing intervals or doing workouts. I'm just doing like just base moderate training in the pool or in the bike. And then towards the end I like tune up and try to get intervals. And then in the fall I normally am doing run club and trying to train for cross country races. But that's been rough because in the club we race against like D2 and D3 teams who practice officially every day and everything we do is optional. Right. So it's definitely like you get your butt whooped, and I've definitely been very in and out of run club because of that, because it's so hard to commit your own time. Like I very much need like a team to do workouts with, and we only have like one workout a week.
Right.
Altogether, and that's not enough for me to keep up with those teams. So I've been very in and out of run club. I found triathlons are the easiest thing for me to train for on my own.
Oh, okay.
And then every now and then I'll like get into a lifting weights phase, but I'm never good at doing anything. 5 weeks is when I can like really lock into something, but 3 months is when I can kind of stay interested in one general thing.
So you can do 5 weeks. So after 5 weeks, you get into kind of the zone. The first 5 weeks is like this warm up or this prep time, and then 5 weeks to 3 months. Is that what you're saying? Is kind of like this more focused time?
Yeah, but for triathlons, I can fully get into triathlon shape for 5 weeks, in 5 weeks.
Okay.
But like,
that's pretty cool.
and it's pretty hard for me to do a triathlon training for longer than 5 weeks, like with focus. But like for running generally, or like those more general things, I can do kind of like 3-month chunks.
Okay.
But 5 weeks, I can like not really even stick to a plan, but just like stick to one thing on my own. Yeah.
Start to learn a process or get some familiarity with a different exercise methodology or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you start doing triathlons? What compelled you to do that? Is there an answer for that?
So it was 2 summers ago. I've done 1 per year. I've done 3. So
Nice.
2 summers ago, I was honestly like doing long distance with a kind of falling apart relationship in the summer, and it was like I needed something that was like within my wheelhouse, like I knew was possible, but still something new to just kind of like numb that. And then when we broke up, it was also to like numb the breakup kind of. And so it was always something I wanted to do, and I knew I didn't have it in me to just run every day in the summer, like it's so hot. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll try this, then I can be in the pool and then I can cross train. And I found it's like, I think my body feels the best when I'm doing that, just because of how much cross training is built in, and like my joints don't want to die. So that's really nice.
Well, a breakup is a great way to start training then. You want to get in great shape.
Yeah.
Get someone out of your life.
Yeah.
And then
it was even less, it was less of like a physical, like, oh, like getting back on the market or anything. It was more of just like to ease the mental, like, anguish of it, I think.
Totally, yeah. I mean, and you're doing something productive. You're doing something good for yourself and your body, and you know that like even if it's not even a good workout, it's better than like sitting at home and being sad about Ryan or whatever. You know, it's like this is dumb. Like, why aren't I doing anything? And like that's what started my addiction. Not even a breakup necessarily, but just like knowing that I could go to the gym and feel immediately better. Like it is kind of a cheat code. It's my antidepressant, essentially. It raises so many good levels in your body, you know? And it's so just like getting in there, it's like, oh, I did something today. Thank you.
I'm so much of a better person when I'm like training for something. And also like, it's so much easier for me to get done everything else I need to in my life well if I'm training for something, because it keeps everything else in check. And I feel like, yeah, especially just the act for me, like with having a lot of juggling a lot of things like school and comedy and working out, mentally having to fit in the workout into the day keeps everything else kind of naturally falling into place, as opposed to just looking at the wide open day and being like, oh, like working out, it like gives a good limit in the day that makes you, it's a good first step to like organizing what I gotta do. And it makes sleep better. It makes me drink less because I know I'll feel like shit if I don't recover. It just makes everything better. I haven't been working out for the last 4 weeks, and I could tell that I'm like mentally just like after the triathlon. Yeah, we can get to that in a bit, but
took a little time off. So you ran a when was your last one?
It was May 11th.
Ooh,
and it was fun.
Yeah, where was it?
It was in Canby, outside of Portland.
Oh, okay.
And it being super cute town. And I managed to get a PR even though I was totally fucked up my transitions.
Yeah.
My transition, like, I was so bad. I was so disorganized in my transitions, but I managed to, because I really dropped my bike time, I was able to get a PR. And then I drank for 7 days straight as my celebration. And then it was also like I had totally overbooked myself through like May, just in my life in general. And so it was like I had been kind of not neglecting relationships, but I definitely was like, I had a lot of people either leaving for the summer or like graduating. And so I wanted to like focus on that. I wanted to focus on comedy, like, because up until that point, it was like every day was like packed with like workout, make this poster for Max's, get ready for this show, do homework. And so like it was just nice to like lay it off. I didn't mean to take quite this much time off. And I could tell that mentally I'm a little bit more of a short fuse right now, but
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I could tell. No, I couldn't tell, but it's like,
yeah.
I know what it's like too. It's like, oh
Mhm.
shit. Yeah. I'm not prioritizing the things. I was just going to take a little time off. And sometimes a little time off turns into a lot of time off.
Mhm.
I am like such a proponent of breaks. I think breaks and naps and chill times and days off and resting is so underutilized. You nailed it when you mentioned sleep, because I think sleep is like the secret ingredient to life. I feel like
Mhm.
if you sleep, then you can be a human again. But because I never understood these people who could get by on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I'm like, what are you
Mm.
doing?
It just feels awful. Like every now and then, like I'll get to a point in the term where I'm like, oh, I need to pull some late nighters. And then it just, because I used to be able to do that all the time in high school, and then I'll do it now, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, that's not a way to live. You're just being a zombie.
Yeah, it's so brutal. It sucks. And like, I play this game when I'm like, unable to sleep at night, that I'm like, oh no, tomorrow's going to be rough. It's going to suck. And then it gets harder and harder to sleep. And then I'm like, and then
Mhm.
and then I'm like going to bed with anxiety and waking up. If I get like I'll wake up with it. But if I like nail my times, those are the times I care about, my bedtimes.
Yeah.
I got a PR tonight. I got to bed before
That's awesome.
11 on a Friday or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome.
but it's like, oh my God, I just want to sleep so bad. I feel like that's what is holding a lot of people back, quite honestly. In a lot of realms,
Mhm.
it's like if you got your sleep on track, you would feel better. Everything in your life you would do better, except maybe open mics, because
Mhm.
I go to fewer open mics now, like
Yeah.
that's the one that kind of has dropped off for me recently, just
Mhm.
because I'm like, I got a day job and it takes so much out of me, and a
Mhm.
lot of, in a good way. I like doing what I do. I like helping folks, but at the end of the day, I just interacted with the public for 7 hours, and
Mhm.
I don't want to do that anymore. I want my friends to be covered in hair and able to sit on my lap.
Yeah. Exactly. That
Yeah.
is, yeah, it is tricky, but no, because I feel like people give up on a lot of stuff because if the sleep's not in order, and then you're like, oh, I worked out yesterday and now I feel like shit, when really it's more about like, oh, was the recovery there? And I'm someone
Right.
mentally, I hate that I need as much recovery as I need. Like, I used to be so much like
Mm,
balls to the wall. I wanted to do all the extreme races. I was all
mhm.
about like, ooh, stay up all night and finish a project. And now I'm just realizing how much that's not the way, and that like if you're not sustainable, or if you need a whole day to recover from something like some big push, then
Yeah.
it's like that's not how you actually make progress. As frustrating as it is, you can't just make progress doing hero work.
Yeah.
You gotta do a little bit every day.
But you put in a lot of your output is very high e- energy, very demanding. Is like making films, making creative work, doing comedy, exercising, being a student. All of those things take a lot of like time and energy. So it's like, of course you're gonna need a day off here and there. Of course you.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish I didn't need any time off. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
if it were only about hours in the day, then sure, I could do most of the things I wanted. But it's also like, no, after my workout, it's not just the workout. It's like, I gotta shower, I gotta eat, I gotta take 20
Mhm.
minutes to sit around, I gotta do whatever, and then I can't just immediately go into the next thing. And same with comedy. It's like
Yeah.
going from comedy to trying to sleep. Have you ever had a great set at 11 p.m. and then you're like, what?
Then you're fucked that
Yeah,
night. Yeah.
but and so it's like, no wonder we drink so much. No wonder
Yeah.
comedians are like lushes, because you get all of this like dopamine from strangers for 5,
Mhm.
10, 20 minutes, whatever, or friends, and then you're like, what do I follow that up with? Well, it's got to
Mhm.
be mind altering substances of some sort,
Mhm.
and that's usually just what happens. But what I mean, that's fine. That's how comedians connect with each other,
Mhm.
so
But yeah, it definitely, it's hard once I'll be on like a healthier routine, and then I'm like, God, but comedy's so fun, and like doing it right, because like I've definitely done where I like come early, do an early set, get out of there, but it is fun every now and then to like let yourself do the full kind of relaxed thing. But it's hard. They aren't compatible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take another bite of a chip.
Yum, chip time, baby. I'm pro chip. I'm very pro chip. I love a crunchy thing. Do you ever go to Mucho Gusto? I love Mucho Gusto. They have such, oh my gosh, check out Mucho Gusto. There's one on 18th and there's one in Coburg. It's like my favorite. It's like a couple small chain of Mexican restaurants, like higher quality ingredients. It's good.
Awesome.
Kind of like Subway. You like point at stuff and say, I want that. But it's not green ham. It's like fresh lettuce and stuff.
Okay.
I had one I wanted to ask you about. But you know, whatever, that's life. Do you were you like in high school and stuff, were you always active? Has this always been a part of your life? Like growing up, have you been into sports and physical pursuits?
Yeah, we always did basketball as a whole family. Everyone was kind of put into basketball, and then
you're all like 6'2" or taller too, so that makes sense, huh?
Yeah, I'm the runt of the family.
At what?
I'm the shortest. I'm 6 foot.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. You are a shorty, huh?
I carry myself as a 6'1" woman. But...
yeah, you got something 6'1" about you.
yeah. It's my massive cock. Gives me that extra little inch.
Yeah.
But we always did swim team in the summers when I lived in like suburbs Georgia, and like the suburbs would compete against each other at swimming. And that's why I like wanted to do triathlons, is because I swam as a kid and I could never do swimming starting in like middle school because it was the same season as basketball. But starting in middle school, we moved across the country from Georgia, and it was like me, my mom, and my siblings moved early summer so they could do high school the summer basketball season. I was in 6th grade. I had nothing to do, and we were just in this hot apartment. She's driving them around. I have nothing to do. And so as soon as fall starts, I'm like, I want to do a fall sport. My mom's like, please, no. Like, we just moved here. There's so much going on. I can't get into a carpool thing right now. But I was like, I want to do cross country. So she's like, okay, fine. And so I started doing cross country, and I've been like more of a runner than anything ever since that in 6th grade. But it started out definitely like unhealthy. I think I had an unhealthy psychology around like, because you're just a kid going through puberty, and I'm like, if I run enough, my little pot belly will go away. And then it's like you're just growing, and that's like not the... Luckily my mom was always very good about like food and nutrition and making sure we were like eating. But so I think running used to mentally be something negative for me. It was about like burning calories.
Right.
And then I got into high school, and I had a really good program, a cross country program with really awesome coaches, and we would run in the woods and we do trail running. And so then it became a lot more about like running for loving your body and what it can do, and kind of being outside, being with your friends. And so it turned into more of a joyful thing. And so since then, I've always kind of had some sort of endurance sport, has always kind of been my thing.
Yeah.
Ever since that.
I love that. That's so cool. And it's so fucked up that as 6th graders, we're like, because I remember the same stuff. I'm like, as a 6th grader, I felt chubby or whatever. And it's like some of that residual stuff is still in our heads, and it's like, it's hard to look at yourself and think about yourself in a judgment-free way. I'm trying really hard to use less judgmental language in my life in general. And that's hard to be a comedian and do that, because what do we want to hear? We want to hear why you hate shit. As comedy fans, I want to hear what you get pissed off about. I want to talk about things that make me angry or I think are stupid or dumb. But then that's also kind of not in alignment with like what I want to be as a person.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to find that balance at times, and it sounds like you're moving towards a healthier place in your head with all of that. Is there any is it like good role models you think that makes a big difference? What was it that kind of like helps that mindset or perspective shift?
I think because it was like middle school, obviously you're being flooded with like a sense of shame and self-loathing for the first time, as your body's like, you're getting flooded with all those kind of like chemicals and growth, everything. So it was a mix of just like the culture of being in middle school and like I didn't grow like the other girls did, where it's like, you know, I'm not gonna talk about middle school boobs, but it was just like other girls had things going for them that I didn't, and I'm like, God damn it, I just have this big old belly.
Yeah.
Which as a middle schooler around people who are then, I think it's also like if you're around people who are self-critical of themselves and like maybe they have things that like, or just like any kind of physical composition that you wish you had, then it's like if they're self-critical of something that you don't think is bad, then you start thinking, oh, I should be self-critical if they don't like themselves. So I think I had a lot of that in like middle school, where it just be overhearing people talk negatively about themselves, and then paired with just general middle school shit, and that like mental just not being happy with yourself, like that starts. But then high school, yeah, it was definitely like good role models with the coaches and seeing running as, because like my middle school coach, it was all about times and just like getting certain times, and in high school was a lot more like, also our coaches, they would much rather us do like a hilly run in the trails as opposed to like so many other programs do like, oh, 9-mile long run on the pavement like around town, and like then it becomes a lot more like you're looking at mileage, you're looking at times, where when you're in the trails, time doesn't matter because you're running hills. And so I think because a lot of things stopped being able to get measured, it made me just stop thinking about things in a measured way. It was more of just like, I'm going to go out and this is going to feel good and I'm going to work hard. And like, I think because everything else got less measured, I stopped like measuring myself in that way. And so then I just found that it helped everything else, like mentally, physically. And so now I'm just like, if I just work hard and then come back, I'm like happy with it all.
If you just, it sounds like once you kind of started focus on the process as opposed to some kind of giant output, you're able to kind of like reframe things and be like, oh no, I'm just doing this thing because I love it.
It's like the practice of it, of just like actually doing something every day as opposed to being outcome oriented. And I was talking about my PRs with my triathlon, but like it's finding the right balance of, sometimes it's nice to have a goal to shoot for, a time to shoot for, but I think with running it's so easy to get caught up in like really worrying about your everyday times, because everyone has the watches now that measures like your speed and your mileage, and I think it's so much nicer. I never had a watch in high school running, which so many people in that community wouldn't understand, but I would just show up and do the workout the coach would give and not be connected to a number, whether like no matter what that number is, and it made it a lot better. But like just not being super output oriented.
I love that, and it does kind of weirdly connect to another thing that I do like to ask people about, which is their goals. Like I know we're talking about process and enjoying the process, and like tonight I got a guest set at the club, and I'm like, okay, I'm more goal oriented. I'm more outcome oriented because I want to record it. I need a new clip. I need a new like 5 minutes with shorter hair set that I can send to bookers and festivals and that kind of stuff. So that's like a little goal that I've tried to work on this week. Then I got in a car fender bender and fucked up my times multiple times this week. So I'm like, oh, what the hell am I going to do? But I'm like, okay, back on track. Here's a goal, trying to accomplish it. What are you trying to accomplish? Like, even if it is rest related, because I'm like, I love rest. I'm all about team rest.
I think for comedy, I'm getting to a point where I have like this initial bulk of material that I'm starting to, every time I get booked somewhere new, I have like the same 10 minutes or the same 6 minutes. And I can like switch it up, but I'm trying to figure out how to like kind of a pre-show ritual when it's material I've done a lot, because it used to be the longest time I was just writing and performing new stuff at mics constantly, and I had my like routine for that where it'd be like I'd run through it in my room and I would like talk about it and I would all that stuff. And now when it's like I know I have it memorized, how do I keep it fresh when it's less about memorizing and more about because then when you're doing it over and over, it's really hard to keep the emotion going. And so I'm trying to figure out how to shift into because then there was a couple shows where it's like I didn't prepare enough because I'm like, I have this memorized and I don't know what else to do. And if I say it more than too many times, then I start to get in my head about it. Yeah. But I'm like, so I need to find new ways to prep for shows now, I think.
So this may or may not be helpful to you, but this was something that I did yesterday because I thought that I was on yesterday, but I'm on tonight. And it was from this book about creating a rich emotional life while you're on stage. And so I wrote down my set list, but on each of the jokes, I also like attached an emotion to them. You can't really see it, but it's like in parentheses, I added emotions. It's like, what is the emotion underpinning that joke? And if I keep that emotion in mind, that'll make the joke so much stronger than just doing the joke as I have remembered it. But I'm like, oh no, that joke is about shame, and I did it about joy, and so that's why it didn't work, or vice versa. But sometimes when you switch the emotion, you might find a richer response. You might also be like, oh, they liked it when I was proud of that as opposed to embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know? And it's fun to play with that stuff because I hadn't even thought about jokes in that way necessarily until I did some reading of books and stuff. But it's like, oh yeah, it's the emotion that we're bringing to the joke that is the fun part. And so that's
really interesting.
Yeah,
that's a really cool way to think about it.
Right? So it's like, and that's me kind of teaching me to act. It's like, oh yeah, I have to act. I have this, mind of an artist, heart of an artist, where I'm like, I want to feel what I'm doing. I want it to be honest and truthful and where I'm at the moment. And that's what mics are kind of for me, is to be where I'm at. A little more of the less acting and more just feeling. And sometimes you can capture lightning in a bottle with those initial feelings that are strong. So you can be like, oh shit, that was great. How did I say that joke that one time that made it land so well? And remembering the emotion that's attached to it, I think has been a good way for me to kind of keep older stuff fresher.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really nice way to think about it. As opposed to like how I'm performing it, like deconstructing it to what is the core root truth of this thing and what is the emotion that made it interesting enough to write down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not just silly words. Anybody can say silly words, but why are those silly words meaningful to you? And I think when you can embody that, then I think that's when I get excited. I'm like, oh, when I can embody that on stage, I get really excited about it. I mean, you've seen me in front of nobody and you've seen me in front of big crowds, and it's so much more, I mean, this is obvious and dumb, but it's so much more rewarding to have a big room where people are like giving you energy back. A paying audience is such an important thing because so much of the time we go to open mics and that doesn't make me want to come alive emotionally.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah. So okay, cool. Nice. Those are some fun goals. Do you have anything that's kind of getting in your way about it? Do you have any challenges like that you're like, I don't know how to like approach this, or these are the things I really want to get better at?
I think it was just like I wasn't giving myself enough time in my schedule to like think of a new way to like, I was giving myself the bare minimum of time to prep in the way I used to prep, and then I would get to those prep moments and be like, I feel like this isn't helping me anymore, and I didn't give myself enough time to like workshop new ways to prep for a show. And so I think it was just not giving myself that space to like think about it and really feel it out in different ways.
Right.
Because in winter I was doing improv a lot, and that was like always a great way to warm up for any comedy. And then in the spring it didn't align with my schedule, and so it's like, okay, yeah, my material I'm very used to at this point, and I'm not doing improv, which is this very warm, inventive thing. And I don't think I like gave myself space to be creative enough. But I'm going to have a bit of a stand-up break this summer, and I think that will be good for me as like kind of refresh it all.
Yeah. What are your summer plans?
So I got an internship with a low budget indie feature film, and so I'm going to be on crew being a production assistant, doing whatever they need me to do for 3 weeks down in California, and I'm really fucking excited.
Oh, heck yeah. Like on set while they're filming and you'll just be a
Yeah.
part of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell yeah. That's going to
So
be a
that's all.
blast.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna learn like so much. It might suck, and if it
could
sucks,
be also
I'm
awful.
still gonna learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried about doing it in the heat because there's a lot of like kind of outdoor scenes, and
Yeah.
I'm not too good in the heat, but it will push me to like learn how to cope and dig deep because I'm very good if I'm like, it's only, you know, when the homeostasis of like my body is out of whack that I start to really not be able to handle like whatever it's called, not
adverse conditions.
Adverse conditions. Like if I'm like, and for me like heat is worse than hunger, and I'm good at like feeding myself, and so like
good.
That's the only thing is I'm like, I need to make sure I can figure this out so I can be as adaptable as I normally would be, even when it's like California in July.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be an interesting experience, huh? Like you're just a cog in the machine for this short film or film down this indie film. That's so cool. I'm excited to hear how that goes. You'll have to you'll have to make a lot of sacrifices in those 3 weeks. It's like it's for the movie. It's sweaty and hot. It's like, okay, how do I be sweaty around people? Like that would be
how do I not get really overwhelmed like internally when I'm like realizing how sweaty and hot I am.
I have to do this for 2 hours where I hold the boom mic or whatever. Bring snacks. Bring snacks and water.
I'm good at I figured out my eating. That's been a huge thing in like my first couple years of stand up, like is making sure I'm eating throughout the day so I'm not like crashing at a show. And so food I feel good about, and I'll just have to adapt to the rest. But I'm also, that's part of why my like short-term exercise goal is like learning how to exercise in like that kind of setting where it's like the work in the day is way more important, and like how do I leave myself with more energy. So like I'll probably be going on long walks, which is something I'm not used to and something I used to probably not consider exercise, but figuring out how to adapt like to keep myself healthy within it, but not completely like drain myself for the rest of the day.
Yeah, those are tricky. And what I've been doing recently is like 5-minute workouts, not just like the videos that I put out 5-minute work, but I'll go do something for 5 minutes. I'll do a kettlebell complex, you know, find something that you can bring or do just 5, 10, 15-minute chunks of time that can get you energized for the day, as opposed to like wearing you out. Okay, no, I'm not doing trail running. I'm not running the 9K today. I'm just doing 10 minutes before work so I can be a freaking human. And so my body is ready to take on the demands of the day. And then at the end, maybe I'll do another 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like how I've been seeing it on my off days, because quite honestly, for me, one of my main challenges is like putting on the brakes. I don't know. Is it hard for you? It sounds like it's hard for you to put on the brakes. How do you do that? Or how do you find time to relax? Or like when you find downtime, what are your like go-to, I don't know, things that you do to feel better?
I found recently, if it's only me doing my own thing, I won't build in breaks, but it's through my relationships with friends and other people. That's when I'll like actually mentally let myself take a break, is if I'm watching a movie with a friend, if I'm like just chilling and watching a show with a boyfriend, like those are when I'll actually let myself take that time. But when it's just me, it's hard because like, or if I'm like traveling solo, like I'll find the only thing that will like let me physically take a break is if I like get on my phone and get like rabbit holed, and then that's like not, that doesn't help. Like then sometimes that will turn into too many hours and I won't get enough sleep. So I started reading books again earlier this spring. It definitely went out the window a couple weeks ago, but like that was the best way for me to like go to bed, would be
Yeah.
like reading 15 minutes of a book and you realize how sleepy you actually are as opposed to like 2 hours on the phone. But yeah, I definitely, spending time with people in my life is the easiest way for me to actually build in restful activities and like rest times, which I wish, like, I need to work on that. I'm gonna have one friend and roommate down there on the doing the internship with me.
Yeah.
And also like heat, if it's hot, like I think that's enough of an overwhelming thing that like I will come home and I'll just like veg or crash and like, so I think, but I think there needs to be some other factor because sometimes it's hard for me to be a barometer for myself and like I just need to chill.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that shitty that we're like, oh, I can't even relax? Like how late?
Yeah.
Like I can't relax by myself. What kind of a psychopath doesn't know how to relax by themselves?
Exactly. Without feeling like some sort of weird guilt or like, yeah.
I know it sucks. And so I'm really trying to like do the work and to figure out what voices are mine, like what voices I should listen to as far as like rest versus like go and stay on the grind. But it's also like I try so much stuff, I do a bunch of different things, and then as I grow I find which things like do fill me up, I find which things are helpful for me and don't just deplete my cup. And it just takes
What are those for you?
time. Yeah. What are those things? I mean, a lot of it is like, oh, I don't love this or that. Like finding out things that you don't love, finding out things that aren't always the best. Like posting all the time. It's like I've gone through different phases of posting. It's like I have some goals around that. I'd like to do, 3 a week or whatever, something like that. But it doesn't feel good when I'm focusing on it too much. And so literally I will just go in to my gym in the backyard with the cats and the kettlebells and just lay down on a yoga mat and just lay down there for 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the day, not trying to work out, not trying to look at my phone, not trying to make content, and just like laying down on a flat surface where there is space around me, covered in hair and ants. And that for me is something that's been really nice lately. And
that's awesome.
And just like not beating myself up when I don't go out. So so that's a big one, is just like finding time to relax, lay down, not worry about doing something. So I guess that's a kind of meditation, right? Just like some mindfulness and not judging my thoughts less. And so that's the one lately. And I mean, going to the gym is my therapy. It's quite honestly how I've regulated myself for my whole life. It was never one of these things that I talked about very much because not a lot of people want to hear about it. Sometimes is how it feels, like people, it's not cool to work hard sometimes, and all I want to do is work hard unless I just want to do nothing.
Yeah.
So
no, I've been saying the only way I can emotionally regulate myself is through exercise. Like and that's the thing where it's like at that point exercising feels like the easier option than trying to deal with the emotional ebbs and flows of life the way I deal with them when I'm not exercising. So like it almost becomes the simpler option of like, and it's nice that I've had that early. I've learned so many different ways. Like I've done everything. I've like done high performance like weight training back when I was like really into basketball. I've done CrossFit. I've done like all the different endurance stuff. And so getting in the habit of learning something new and being uncomfortable and like being okay with that, I'm really grateful I had that early, because it was very hard, especially like as you get older and you become an adult and you start to like either take yourself too seriously or think that you're supposed to take yourself seriously. It's so hard to like, so much of like learning a new thing at the gym is so vulnerable and weird and funny feeling that like I'm very happy I did that early. But that's also why I still try to like learn new things and do new things and like new little sports variations, is because it's so, everything your body wants you to not like look goofy and learn something new at the gym, but it's the most like rewarding thing.
Yeah, it really is. I look like a freaking psycho. Every gym, I've never found a gym where I don't look like a psycho. It's like at the strength training gyms, I'm doing too much, plyometrics or too much jumping or moving around or too many rotational. That's what I found at my strength training gym was like my rotational movements. People don't like that shit. People don't like when you do stuff a little differently, and it's like, okay, all right, whatever. Now that I'm at the Y, I work out there most of the time. I'm also like, now I'm a little too intense for the Y is how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
But I work there. So I think that there's like people know I work at the desk and am a friendly and welcoming presence, and so just like I think an important part of like a place like the Y is that it is welcoming for all kinds of training. There is space for a variety of stuff. So yeah, finding the ways that work for you and your body is so important. And it's like I'm doing a different kind of workout than I've done before. I'm following some guy's stuff and it's been super fun. It's nice to not have to think about it, like you were talking about when a coach gives you a workout. It's like, do this, and it's like, okay, great, I don't have to figure out anything else other than how I make my body do the things you told me to do, and it feels great.
And that's why I've found that for me, triathlon training is the easiest thing for me to do myself, especially when I'm also doing something creative, because biking and swimming leave a lot more creative physical energy left over afterwards than like just running all the time. I found like depletes me a lot more, and like lifting weights also gives me a lot more energy coming out of it. And like I've been thinking about that a lot, because like when you're doing something like performing, it's easy to be like, I need to just rest and save energy. That is so important sometimes, but sometimes I'll do a workout and I'll have way more of a pep in my step on stage. And so just like find that balance. And also with triathlon training, it's like the nice where instead of it being like running all the time or weightlifting all the time and needing to come up with all the little variations, it's just like swim, bike, or run. And it's just like very simple, and it rotates enough that it's like, it gives me variety, but then also within the actual swimming, biking, or running, I don't have to think too much. It's just like, do I want to, how's the weather? Should I bike or should I swim? And like, that's it. And so I found it simplifies, because I'm bad when I have too many options. And so it's a way to simplify it for myself where it's like,
I love that. I've recommended this book a number of times. Have you read What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami? Yeah. Great read. It's over there on the bookshelf. I've got mine somewhere around here too. Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't seen that copy. That's fun. I love Murakami.
I think I got it. Like, he's awesome. I have not to be.
Oh yeah, I want to see your books. I want to see your Murakami books.
Novelist as vocation. That's what he talks about his writing.
Novelist as Chronicle. Vocation. Oh man, you got the whole. You've got a bunch of them.
And I have one called Norwegian Wood. I have it. The only one I've read is the running one and the novel one, which is like kind of funny because I've only read him talking about things in his life as opposed to like haven't read his fiction yet. But I have 2 of his pieces of fiction, and I'm trying to get I'm bad at reading fiction. My brain doesn't. My productivity brain doesn't let me like think that is beneficial, even though I know it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to switch gears, but I'm on nonfiction still. I can't get off of nonfiction very easily. I'm like, every time I pick up a fiction book, I'm like, do something with your life, Rudy.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not the right mindset. That's not how I need to look at fiction. Okay, good. Nice. Yeah. Check it. The first one of his I read was Kafka on the Shore, and he's an interesting author. So nice. That's so fun. I will try to take a page out of your book and read a book.
I really because I've been reading like, for some reason, the fiction I have been able to get myself to read is like old literature, like Don Quixote. I've been working on for like a year.
Yeah,
it's almost as if because it's like old and renowned, it makes it more beneficial. Like I wish I could just read modern day fiction. Me and Chad Hurst were in a healthy debate about that it's probably like months ago.
Nice.
He's like, yeah, I hate the old stuff. I'm like, I can't get myself to sit down and read the new stuff. I don't know what it is about my brain. But I also, like, it's funny, I read like this feminist book about, like, 3 women in long-term relationships and how their lives are, like, unraveling at the hands of the men in their life. Like, because it's, like, in the 60s.
Yeah.
Not that the men caused everything, but, like, their lives were just falling apart. Their relationships were falling apart. Right. And it's just, like, the rage.
Yeah.
And so then after that was so heavy that I'm like, I needed to read, like
something light.
Yeah. And I read one of, I know this might not sound like it's light, but I read one of Anthony Bourdain's books. Oh. Him just going around the world talking about eating and stuff. And it's like, after reading, like, the ruminating, like, deepest, darkest thoughts of a woman, I'm like, I just need to have, like, a man be like, I went to Portugal and I ate a pig's heart, and this is what Portugal is like. And even though he totally generalizes so many places that he just goes to, it's like, it was a palate cleanser.
Yeah, 100%. I totally get that. Have you lost it? I have all these thoughts, and then my brain's like, no, you don't. They're gone.
Yeah.
See you later. What was it sounded like The Hours. Have you seen The Hours or read The Hours, the book? The Hours? Oh man, again, very serious movie. The movie has Julianne Moore, Meryl Streep, and 1 or 2 other huge names. But it's like 3 women in 3 different eras, just depressed as all get out, and they're really rough lives no matter what, you know, kind of a deal. And
Damn.
it's like,
I'm gonna write that down.
This is, I
good.
feel like I need to watch Dumb and Dumber now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, I just need The Hours.
Yeah, it's a decent watch. It's worth a watch.
Hell yeah.
It got nominated for all the awards and stuff that one year. I try to get all my awards movies in for some reason. I love, like, again, love process, but I love awards too. I'm like, awards are super fun. Do you have like a couple of movies that you go back to either for like a comfort watch, or a movie that you're like, this is my ultimate film, or this is the movie I hated the most? Do you have any personal favorites or anything that jumps out when I kind of give a couple categories?
I really like British humor because I feel like there's something extra I will find or uncover in the writing every time I watch it, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, or like the Cornetto trilogy with Edgar Allan Wright and Simon Pegg. So I feel like for me, like,
the Cornetto? I probably know it. What's the Cornetto trilogy?
It's like Shaun of the Dead, Dead, Hot Fuzz, and the
World's End?
World's End, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, those guys are a blast.
And then, like, visually, like, I also like, I don't know, I'm actually very bad at watching movies, but my early, like, influences were, my dad showed me, like, I really like, despite him not being the best person ever, I do like Tarantino's movies, but I like the ones that I don't really love the ones that people really love. Like, I don't really care for Pulp Fiction or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as much. I more of like the really revisionist history ones, like the Hateful Eight and Django and Inglourious Bastards. I really like the going back in historical events and like giving it a different ending or giving it a like maybe that's also because I can't let myself just like pure fiction. I'm like, God, I need to have it be historically based or something.
There has to be some relevance.
I'm trying to think about. Oh, go for it.
Tarantino's one of those guys that I kind of love to hate. Like, he gets on my nerves, and his movies aren't exactly my cup of tea, but I like watching him. I like checking him out and seeing what he's up to. And he's like a prominent American director that's like in it right now, and where you get to experience that. And I love freaking directors. I think directors are amazing and a crazy beast.
And I do think that, like, the more I rewatch them as like a teenager and an adult, I'm like, him directing these movies definitely is keeping him from like torturing women in his basement. Like, I definitely get that vibe where I'm like, I feel like he really does like the glorification of, like, violence against women to a degree. Like, sometimes I'm like, but that being said, much more preferring that being in a creative outlet than in real life.
Yep.
Um,
Totally.
it's so fucked. Like, going back and watching things and being like, God damn it. Like, as a more adult woman, and like starting to like understand patterns and understand like inferences and being like, why are they sexualizing the kid? Why are they like sexualizing her getting shot in the stomach? Like,
well, that's everything, and it kind of sucks and is depressing. Yeah, it's hard to like take off those glasses when you're watching stuff, and if stuff like Tarantino smacks you in the face with violence from the start of his stuff, so it's like that's part of why I'm like, okay, Quentin, have fun, go suck on some toes, man, go do your thing. So as we kind of wind up, you're...
Oh God, I've got us so tangented. I'm sorry.
No, that you're great. It's awesome. I love tangents. My life is full of tangents. That's usually what it is. I feel like all of my interests are tangents. It's like, oh, I'm going to go out and do this for 7 years. Now I'm back in America. And so, like, what do you... not having done comedy for the longest time, like, what are some of the lessons you've learned as a younger comedian that have been super helpful for you, or what do you wish you knew when you started out that you know now?
I wish in like the early months I like took it a little easier on myself, because I felt like I also didn't understand the larger framework of like open mics versus shows versus everything. So like I thought every open mic was like live or die, and I would like put on so much makeup just to like go to fucking Lucky's and like talk to like 2 people. And so like I think I just like everything felt like it was the same intensity. And then it was finally like, it must have not even been until like the fall, like, because I mainly started in January, and then the fall, I don't know, because then when I started getting booked for shows, that all was like, this is every single one is live or die. And like finally by now, it's like I've seen enough situations where it's like now at least it's great, because open mics are very much more chilled for me, and I know it's not that deep. But now I'm finally getting to that point with shows where I'm like, sometimes weird things will happen. The room might be weird, someone's phone might be going off, audio. So it's like now I feel like I've seen enough that I know, like, literally, like, in the moment it feels like this, but like in the long run it's like just like a tiny little like squiggling line where it's like actually where I used to just like be so affected by everything. And I just which I don't know if I could have told myself that and listened, if I could go back, but it's something I'm glad that I like was able to learn through experience.
Yeah, not everything is life or death, not everything is the end of the world, but at the same time it's like good to put some professionalism on it. And so, and that's always come through, is that you care about your performances, and you're a hard worker, and you write a lot, and you want to make sure that you're putting out the product or the material that you feel like encapsulates who you are. At least that's the impression that I've gotten watching you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm glad that you're a part of the Eugene comedy scene, Gwen. I think you add a lot to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're dope. You're a hilarious comedian. You're a friggin' great runner. You're a tall drink of water. You bring your parents out. You bring out the crew. You're you're an awesome, thriving part of the scene. So I'm stoked to see you continue to grow and do your thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Gwen, as we kind of wrap up, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say before we go? Any plugs or anything?
I was gonna ask you a question.
Okay, great. Yeah, shoot.
Like, but not to launch into another rabbit hole, but what have you found, like, what's your perfect workout if you have a show that night? Like, what do you like to do for yourself?
Great question. And I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. And I'm going to build some workouts with this kind of question in mind. But it's kind of similar to that one that I mentioned to you earlier. It's like finding a couple different movements and a 20-minute chunk of time that I can do them in. Like, it doesn't even have to be right before I try to move before I go, like an hour or two before the showtime. So the blood is flowing, so things are moving, and that would include something like some kettlebell complexes with some Cossack squats and some like rotational presses, but
Mhm.
essentially like a combination of like 4 full body movements or 4 movements that would hit the various parts of your body and kind of done in a circuit style. So I think those workouts are awesome. So like find a squat, a hinge, a press, and a row, and either a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a barbell of some sort, and I'll do those, for either time, maybe 30 or 45 seconds, or for reps, 10 to 15 reps, and then just do the next one and do as many sets or circuits of that as feels comfortable to me. So like something that would take probably that in that 10 to 20 minute range on the day of a proper show
Mhm.
sounds great to me. And that's like if I'm doing a longer set, because
Yeah.
if I'm doing a shorter set, I could maybe like tonight I'm doing an 8-minute set, so I did a pretty intense workout at the gym, but didn't do all of the stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
still a good workout. I did the things my trainer guy um suggested, and then but just trying to leave a little something in the can, a little something in the tank
Mhm.
still. So it's like, it's kind of like that Japanese version of eating where you eat when you're 80, you stop eating when you're 80% full. So
Mhm.
you have to figure out what those percentages are. That's my process. Oh, that's my process right now, is figuring out what
Yeah.
percentages are appropriate for what I'm going to be doing the rest of that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that kind of answered. I think that answered the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a really cool way to think about it.
What do you like to do on a show day?
I think biking, a little bike ride, is the best thing I've found. Or like a short lift.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, short end, but it's like it gets you kind of moving.
Mm-hmm.
I've done running before, I've done biking before. I've had great shows with both, but I found like biking and lifting definitely leave me with the most energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like you don't want to do nothing and then just be like, bleh. Then you don't want to do too much and then also be like, bleh.
Yeah.
So.
And so it's just finding that sweet spot for you. Like, what is it for you where you can still give your best? And I'm trying to incorporate more physicality on stage. I'm trying to play more, and so it's like, what can loosen up the hips? What can make me feel like, I look at it like triple threat stance in basketball. It's like I kind of want to be able to do anything when I'm on stage, like whether that's like slow, fast, or riff, essentially. And so it's like, how can the things I'm doing physically lead to a greater likelihood of those things succeeding when I'm on stage? And so it's just a fun kind of process of elimination and trying different things. And it's like, I still screw it up. I'll be like, oh no, I'm tired and it's 4. But it's been a fun process to kind of try to figure that out. And that's actually kind of what I'm trying to create, is like a 12-week guideline for comedians and human beings that have all of these different obligations and then different workouts that would lead to them being able to do those at the level they want to do them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I fuck with that because I feel like people rarely like think about them combined, or like at least I haven't heard of thing like on the Instagram reels and everything. Like it's always like go 100%, like like give it everything you got. But it's like, okay, but then what about the rest of the day? Especially if you're a performer.
Yeah.
Performer, or like God forbid if you're like a parent, like that's probably a whole different can of worms of like trying to have energy afterwards. But
yeah.
yeah.
I know so many parents, and I'm like, God bless you. I can't hardly imagine taking care of other human beings.
Yeah. But we just got to take care of ourselves, and we do that somewhat poorly. Woo.
Yeah, welcome to comedy. Welcome to comedians.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. I love having these conversations, and I'm glad you ask questions, and other people are like slowly saying okay to have these conversations. I think it's an important kind of like alternative to the Rogan-esque kind of like, you gotta fucking do this, and if you don't, you're a chump. And it's like, well, we're all chumps, and you can do whatever you want. Like, figure it out.
You can rest also.
Yeah, I think that's pretty darn important. So, oh yeah, don't forget to rest.
Awesome.
Don't forget to rest. Gwen, you rock.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're a stud. You're a star. You're gonna be keep on floating. I'm glad that Eugene has you around. So good luck with that internship.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for that. I think that sounds like such an awesome
excited
thing.
too.
When does it start?
July 1st.
Oh, okay. Oh, dang.
Yes,
So
I'm starting my road trip. This Thursday. I'm gonna take my time getting down there.
Heck yeah, that's the way to do it. Right on. All right. Well, if you want to check out Gwen online, Gwen_Gray, Gray with an A _ afterwards too. And was there one more
or Gwen
thing?
Gray on YouTube.
Gwen Gray on YouTube. Heck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks for stopping by, Gwen. Hang out for just a minute after
Thank you.
push stop so these things get uploaded. Oh, the kitty jumped in.
I will.
And I really appreciate you and everything you bring to the table. So thanks for being
Appreciate you as well.
Right on. Thanks,
Thank
Gwen.
you.
We'll see you soon. Go to Max's and until next time, arrivederci.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tyburczy.